Ron, thanks so much for joining us. And, we've heard that there is like this home insurance crisis happening across the country, and particularly states like Florida and California. There was, insurance fraud. That is a huge problem, but also severe weather. And we, of course, have seen that with Hurricane Helene. You just got back from Tampa, is that right?
I did. I landed back Wednesday night right before the storm.
And so, what are folks dealing with there? I mean, obviously, they have a lot of claims, I'm assuming.
They'll have a lot of claims. The flood surge in Tampa was a lot higher than they expected. You had a lot of buildings that were flooded, but even going inland into Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, one of my favorite places to visit is Asheville, North Carolina, and
Mm.
it's cut off from the world right now. Every bridge and road into that town has been destroyed.
And so, with these places that, this severe weather has impacted, and especially Asheville destroyed, there will be, the rebuilding, the recovery efforts happening. What are you telling folks that have insurance in these places that they are going to be, filing claims?
One of the biggest things people need to be aware of is that you only have 60 days after a flood occurrence to get with FEMA and hand in your proof of loss. If you don't have your proof of loss into them within that 60 days, you're at their mercy. They don't have to pay anything at that point in time. So if you're under the NFIP flood program or through FEMA, you need to get your proof of loss into the insurance company as quick as possible so that they could start working off of your numbers versus waiting for them to do their numbers. And then you wait past that 60 days, you've lost your right to recover.
I'm assuming that a lot of people probably didn't have flood insurance because, I lived in Florida a long time ago, but flood insurance was pretty expensive.
That's correct. A lot of people just opt to go without it and they'll take what FEMA gives them. The max there is $250,000 per flood event. And that's wherever you're at in the country.
A lot of companies have left Florida recently, about 30 companies. A number have left California. And that, is making it difficult on the folks who live there just because of, severe weather issues, because of fraud as well. For folks who live in those states, those rates are also expensive as well. What are you telling folks specifically in those states that have fewer options?
Be proactive. There's things that you can do when it comes to your insurance. You can get a higher deductible. You can remove things on your property. Just having a trampoline in the backyard causes you to have an additional liability that your insurance company is going to charge you for. Make sure that you have coverage where you have additional security on your property. If you put in security alarms, cameras, so forth, you can get a discount a lot bigger than what those cameras and or that security is going to cost you on a monthly basis.
Based on what we are seeing in Florida and California, and now, in Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina, just rebuilding, will that make our rates go up here in our state, in Arizona?
So what you have to remember is it's law of supply and demand. Even though in Arizona you may not have the damage, now they're sending materials that would normally go to Arizona to Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, so on and so forth to rebuild. And you'll have labor that will leave Arizona to go to those states to rebuild. And what happens is now you have less supply of both materials and labor in Arizona, and then it's going to cost more to just build a house, to remodel a house, so on and so forth. But your insurance rates are always subject to what the cost of construction is. And as cost of construction goes up, so do your premiums because they're all based on what your premium or what your cost of construction is.
Last question I had was, you are an advocate for people when they are battling their insurance company. You know, you want when something bad happens, you want your insurance company to write you a check because you've been paying in for so many years. But that doesn't always happen. what is your advice to someone who is battling an insurance company? Because I'm sure, every situation is different, but ultimately, does an insurance company just not want to pay out, the money that is rightfully owed to someone?
I would say that if somebody's needing assistance, they need to look at the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. There's about 800 members in that organization. I'm a member myself, and those are the most professional public adjusters in the country. They're licensed and advocates that work throughout the country, and they help consumers make sure that they get everything that they're entitled to under the policy. We're not trying to make the insurance company pay more than what they owe. We're only trying to make them pay what they should have paid in the first place. Unfortunately, in the industry, you do have adjusters that are overworked uh, and don't always get claims paid in proper manner. But
Yeah.
there, there you go.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really overwhelming for anyone right now working, especially in, all the areas that have been hit following Hurricane Helene. Ron, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your perspective.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.